anything that comes into contact with it, really. Look, I was going to talk today and finish about the magic movies, but instead I started to think, and and it come to me that, like the Matrix movie, right? We'll start with that. The Matrix movie, that basically is this. The Matrix is the control system, everything. This means that it controls not just the physical, which it controls the physical aspects totally of our reality, in the sense that the Matrix can maneuver every single physical aspect to its own liking. And usually this is negative because we live in a negative duality world. So you will see positive, as I've said before, but mostly it will always be pulling away from the positive into the negative, because although it's a duality world, which means negative and positive, or right and wrong, good and bad, that's what essentially it is. These forces alone create the matrix. They create the chaos that is the matrix. They create the instability, the world we live in, that is all about, yes, moving from one to the other, the continual pulling. It's never stable, and it's never in the center. It's never like, it's always like there's the positive and the negative, there's the good and the bad. This is what it is, but it's never in the center. It's never in balance. Never in balance. I hope I'm not doing something wrong with my hands here, because the matrix controls everything. The matrix controls me. The matrix controls you. The matrix controls my actions, my thinking, my words. So therefore, I could be speaking now as I have put out before, and I am part of the matrix. So everything I do, the matrix knows what I do before I do it. So all good intentions are lost in the matrix, in my opinion anyway. But hey, if it's still good to keep trying, because you never know, maybe one day we might pull it back towards the center. But that does not look very likely at the present time. But maybe this is just because this is my reality. So I do not know what yours is. Yours might be more positive, because we only affect our little world that's around us, okay? And, I'm trying to affect that in a positive way, in the sense that I'm trying, but it's a losing battle, because it is, as I've said before, all about frequency, vibration, and we create reality with our thinking, with our talking, with and we are all connected. So therefore, that's right, everything that I say, do, will have a positive or a negative effect. But if every day I am in a negative world, around me is negative, and I cannot change that to be positive. In other words, like if I went up to someone and was really nice to them, but they still managed to come back at me with aggressiveness, that is beyond my control then to change that negative into a positive. In fact, that positive that I tried will be hit back with negative, and therefore I will become negative and hit back with negative too, probably. This is how it works, it's a mind game, and it's a physical game, genuine humans in the Matrix are hit from all angles. When I say genuine humans, I mean those that are genuinely striving to bring it back into balance. But of course, most of us are not conscious anyway. And by that I mean that most of us are not aware, as I wasn't, that your every speech, I could be talking too forcefully now because I'm angry, because the Matrix makes me angry, because I hear about things happening all the time and I think, hey, the Matrix is going further into the negative. And, I would like it to come back to a balance, because that's the only way that the real humans can really survive in the Matrix. Because the Archon God, when I say Archon God, once again, this is an entity. This is the controlling force of the Matrix. Who, what, I've never really went into great details about that. There are various, my information is that there are various groups involved. These are not human groups, of course, but humans mainly act in the Matrix. So they will take their instructions from their God or their entity. Now, this also is, let me just say this. I'm going to ramble again and I'm going to go a bit off track here. Like, only yesterday, I was reading a kind of philosophy, shall we say. It was only like a few paragraphs, but it was essentially comprised the philosophy of a religion, right? In other words, how you should be. And I'm reading it. It was given to me. And I'm reading it. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, that is definitely the religion or the philosophy or the way to be that reflects me. In other words, everything that was stated there about freedom and about all the good, what I consider to be good, positive things were in it. And yet there appeared to be no actual Godhead, even though, as I've said before, this world is definitely ruled by a real entity. It is ruled by an entity that uses technology and every bit of knowledge and the way the world works to their advantage, and to where they can completely manipulate the Matrix and completely control it. It's their Matrix, and this, you would have to have understanding of how everything works in a scientific way, you could almost say, and in supernatural ways and in technical ways, and particularly as it is a technological being. I've said that before because that's my information, okay? But at any rate, I've gone off track again. I'm so sorry, but I really am exhausted. I find it very hard to do these things. But at any rate, I'm trying to keep on track. Look, I was reading this thing, it was presented to me, and I'm thinking this would be the way to live. This is how things should be. This is the right philosophy. This is the right religion, or whatever you like. And then when I looked at what it actually was, it was a doctrine, you could say, for a particular Satan following or religion or whatever word, I don't know what word you would use it, but it is practiced in the world. Now, I'm not saying that it may not or may not be exactly the same as the one that the vast majority follow. It probably is, to an extent, in the sense that what I read is probably incorporating incorporated into, I would imagine, any Luciferian satanic type religion, should we say? Is that the right word? Because I don't know the words to use for these things. I hope I'm not getting it wrong. If I am, I apologise to anyone who follows these things or who is involved, because I am quite ignorant in a way, but I'm trying to understand it. But anyway, I read this, and then to my surprise, it is a satanic belief system, shall we say. Now, I'm guessing that from my other knowledge that was the synopsis, shall we say. And it suited me fine when I'm actually reading it, because I'm thinking, hey, they all sound like very positive, good things. But what I am trying to say is this, right? This is the duality confusion of this world, is that this would only still probably be, this is an enticement to get into it in a way, because it was enticing me. Not that, I mean, there again, I'm not saying that I would go into that at all, but I'm saying that if I just read that synopsis, it would have sounded better than most of the synopsises that you'd probably have for most of the other religions. Now, this was new to me. Now, what I'm trying to say is this would entice, if it could entice me, I'm sure it would entice many, many others into that particular belief system and into that particular whatever it is, religion, following, cult. I don't know what words you'd use for it, but it is a religion and it rules this world in most of your religions anyway. But I'm saying that that was specifically said that what it was. And yet someone like myself who has no interest in most of these religions would have been very enticed by it. And this is why I'm saying there is, to me, that had just occurred to me that is how this game, this mind game, this is part of the mind game of the Matrix, because many people could go in for that. And if they just bought into the good side of it, because there is a negative side to all things too, you see. But if you buy into the good side, then you might also say, oh, well, it's okay to do some negative things because they will lead to the good things. I'm not going into details here, but what I'm saying is this really surprised me, because this, no doubt, is how many people who actually are not really negative get into negative beliefs even, and will follow negative entities almost, shall we say, because that's what struck me with this, because I'm like thinking, this sounds exactly like me. And then I'm thinking, after I've been told that it's a particular type of religion, I'm thinking, yes, but there are other aspects to that would be that I might find negative. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm saying that this is the trick of this world and the Matrix, which controls everything, is that we are all led. We do not choose. Now maybe you're saying, well, I might have chose there in being a bit discerning, but I could have easily not thought that. In fact, if they had said it was some other religion or something, I might have thought, oh, that's interesting, that fits. But it surprises me that, you see, because human beings are essentially looking for the same things, but we can still then go into something negative without knowing it, but it has to be presented in a way to where we don't see it as a negative. That the Matrix is all negative because it's a duality. The fight between right and wrong, black and white, that duality that goes on creates negativity just in itself. This is the problem, as I've said before. And this is what you know, what I've been informed of, you know. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. I hope I made a bit of sense with it. But that was just a personal thing which I wasn't looking for, and I see this all the time. Where I mean, it's still a choice. As I said before, it's a choice. But what I was trying to say was that sometimes you're making a choice and you think you're making a positive choice. You think you're making a choice that applies to yourself and what you would consider to be yourself, good things about yourself. You might say, yes, well, I want to have equality. I want to have freedom. I want to have love. I want to have free expression. I want everyone to be an individual and do their own thing, and the world to be comfortable with all this, because this was part of some of the stuff that was part of this doctrine. Very much, they were words that appealed to me, and the way it was expressed was very, very true of how people probably should be. But when I'm saying but, you're probably saying, well, why am I saying but? Well, you know, I have heard that there is dark, very dark sides to some of these religions too. So I'm wondering how, to me, even that then would be a contradiction. But if I just bought into the premise of what the ideology of it, shall we say, is about, I would say, hey, what a very good idea, religion, philosophy, whatever it is, but it was under that name. Now, you know, so what I'm saying is that the Matrix will seduce you, trap you, control you, direct you in ways that you will not be aware of. We are all been there. We've all done that. I could have done it just yesterday, even after being a little bit aware. Now, and you know, so that this is how it works. It is, you know, we do, look, I'm going to say this bluntly, we do not have any power at all in our world in that sense, in the sense that we have given our mind over to it. The technology, we've given it literally, we're giving it literally physically over now with technology, okay? But the Matrix still knows what most people are thinking, doing. Now, some people, this will be even more pronounced because some people will become aware that the Matrix is closing them down much more than others. Most people are not aware of this because the Matrix is not closing them down. When the Matrix tries to close you down and does close you down, then you become aware much more of the Matrix and the reality that it has total total control, um, total control, literally, of you in every single way, physically, mentally, psychologically, in every single aspect. This is hard for most people to comprehend. And it's hard for most people to accept, a bit like in the movie The Matrix. That's why I mentioned that movie, because in that, the fellow wants to know the truth. He's searching for the truth. He knows the matrix exists in a way, but he doesn't understand how deep the matrix is and how all encompassing it is and how there is no way out and how it manipulates every aspect of every human being's life. This is not how it always has been, but it has gradually got more and more that way. But certainly since the matrix was established, shall we say, because don't ask me when or whatever. Well, I mean, I do have some idea, okay, but I, you know, I'm not into all that history stuff at the moment. I'm just trying to make some very basic points that might hit home if anyone's listening to you and me, because it's a personal thing. There's no point in looking at the big picture. We need to know the big picture and realise that the world is, a setup. It's a total setup. It's a total, as I've said before, a total video game, a total setup video game. The only thing that a human being has left in it is their free will to make little choices. But like I've said before, even those will be manipulated to such an extent by the matrix that even when you're making a free choice, you will think that is a free choice, but in reality, you will be maneuvered into making the choice that the matrix wants you to make. This is, it sounds very, it sounds very negative, and it is negative but that's only if you, look, if you're someone that wants to be controlled completely and doesn't want to have to think, doesn't particularly value personal freedom or freedom for anyone else for that matter, because if you don't value someone else's freedom, then yours will be taken from you too, as it has from me and many others. You see, this is what happens. So do not think for 1 minute that we are not connected. We are connected. Our thought creates reality. We are totally then manipulated and maneuvered by the matrix, because they know what your every thought is. They know how to manipulate your thinking and your thoughts to create the reality they want. And that it has to be of a low frequency for the matrix to keep going. This is a low frequency matrix. It does not welcome or want anything that goes past a certain height in the frequency, and it certainly doesn't want high frequency individuals or humans, because that then will change the frequency and the matrix cannot operate the way it does. This is a controlled system, so a controlled system can only operate in low frequency, and that's what the matrix is. I was going to, okay, so I've written something down here that I got from somewhere else. I don't know where the saying comes from, but I've heard it on other sites. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. But I would change that to, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed God is God. Because, this is just my assumption. The God entity that has the matrix. Now, I do not know who these entities are. I have never seen them. But I am guessing that because of that saying, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, but I would say the one-eyed God is king, ruler. God controls everything, because the fact that that saying is that we are all blind, obviously, we do not see anything. Most of us can't see the matrix, and even I've took a lifetime to even see glimpses of it. When it's too late type of thing, when the matrix is more into a lockdown mode than what it's ever been in its entire history, and heading towards total close down of this matrix, to where, we will not be having any influence or any input into the matrix. We will just be totally maneuvered around the matrix, because, like I've said in the past, we've been maneuvered, but we still had free choice. But there could come a point where we are not even given free choice, because if you give yourself over to the matrix too much, particularly the technology, then the technology will control you, and then The technology will have the free choice, not you, you see. That's how it will work if you want to look at it that way. But at any rate, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed God is master, king, whatever. Because, and there's the allegiance, as we know, to the one eye thing. And this is because the God, the entity that has the most power over our matrix, only has one eye. And also this God is of a neutral denomination, shall we say, neither male nor female, that type of thing, you know, or at least not specifically wholly, completely one or the other. Now, this also, I surmise that this God has fought many battles because these entities are warriors. They are the greatest warriors that are, and probably have ever been for all I know. And so, like one of our warriors in history, I can't think of his particular name, he lost an eye in battle. I saw that in a documentary movie many years ago, even though I'm not much into that type of stuff. But like I've said before, the movies tell you the truth about things. And so the great warrior, the great God, has lost an eye in a battle and has surrendered the total masculine thing too, if you follow my gist without being too specific. So we have a entity that is the reason I think this is why the God entity wants humans to be like him, her, etc. So there is the allegiance to the one eye and the neutral identity, shall we say. You know, not to male or female, because this is how the God entity has ended up through great battles. And so the God demands the allegiance for humans to become like him, her, as that being is. I'm trying to put it in a way, and I'm not doing it very well. I'm so sorry. But you see, I don't want to, I can't say male, female, I can't say a particular entity. I can't say these things because I don't have a name for them. And it's very hard to explain something that is different to what our concepts are. But it's not difficult to understand that a great warrior can lose certain physical appendages, certain physical things in a battle, okay? And then the God may be angry about this even, I do not know, but then they want the humans to, or their followers, to be like this. And this just occurred to me after seeing that line, and then also thinking about, like we talk about the movies. Well, I have not seen the movie Thor, right? But I've seen the image. That is the great thunder god, isn't it? With only one eye. And who knows what is under the armor. So what I'm trying to say is that also represents the God, because the movies, as I've said before, and I was going to go into that, maybe I'll leave it for another video, I'm not sure, but I would mention some movies that I'd like you to watch them, only in the sense that there's many, many more. You could watch a million movies. All movies tell the truth. All movies tell what the reality is. Not the reality we see, but what the reality is that we can't see because we are limited. You know, we're not supposed to be limited, and we could be, as I've said before, more advanced than even the system that we are in and the beings that control it. This is a possibility. I would say not only a possibility, a probability, a likelihood, and to me, I would say a fact, but I cannot prove this. And but just because, you know, you are the suppressed, shall we say, or you are the servant to the master, that does not necessarily mean that the master is better than you. The master has merely fought more battles and defeated you because you did not develop your abilities in order to hold your own in that battle. If you choose to battle, that is, too. If you are happy to serve the master, and she is the master of the physical, of the technology, of the of the war, a god of war, because this is a warrior god, this is a warrior race, the greatest warrior race. At that level, they are unsurpassable. At that level, they are unbeatable. Well, you know, they are because humans in particular, and maybe many others for all I know, play them at their own game. Humans never play their own game. They don't, as I've said before, humans have many aces in the game of cards, but they don't play them. They don't know they have the aces. They play according to the rules that are set down for them. They don't know that they can break the rules. They don't know that there should be no rules for them. They don't know that at their own level of development, at a spiritual level, that then they also, once they get to a high spiritual level, then they are also endowed with many physical gifts, many physical abilities that they would not comprehend, that they would not dream could be possible for them. And therefore, if they were at that level, the gods and their masters would probably not appear to be the same way. They would see them in a different light. But that doesn't happen because we are very much trapped in the physical, limited world that we're in, and we have not developed ourselves. And we are developed less and less, and now we are developing technologically, which is the way of the god, the warrior god, the warrior interdimensional race, group of beings. Now, when I say interdimensional, even with that, I'm talking a little bit through my hat, because not being advanced myself, I have not been interdimensionally. Humans should be able to do all these things. Like, they should be able to see all, know all, and know nothing, do nothing, and see nothing. The one-eyed God sees much more, because although we are blind, he's got one eye, so he's seeing much more than us. But we are meant to have two eyes, but that has been denied us. The one-eyed God has closed off one of our eyes and made us like him, her, you know, like the entity God in a way, except that we've had both eyes closed because we see nothing. And that's why we look up to the God, you know, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed God is king, is master. That's essentially how it works. Now, yeah, so that's how it works. The entities, they may or may not be able to go interdimensionally everywhere. I do not know whether the gods themselves are confined to the very matrix that they confine us to. I don't know that. I'm assuming, but either way, even in that aspect, they can go outside of like this earth domain, because the matrix is not just the earth, it does cover, I think, more. It's like a, someone else said it's like a bubble, but it's definitely a closed off region, and we do not get to go out of our region. The idea is to keep us in the prison. And strangely enough, we think that the prison, the earth, is all there is. And even if we thought, oh, we go to another planet, then we still think that's all there is. We don't think that this whole domain, wherever we go in this region, is part of the prison, okay? So it doesn't matter if you go to the moon or to other places, then that means that that is part of the prison, part of the matrix, okay? But we are like prisoners that want to, that even if we're, in a way, we're kind of like, we're happy prisoners. We're like prisoners that, you know, some prisoners, they spend their whole life in jail. And then when they're let out, they want to go back to jail because it's comfortable, it's safe. The real world becomes too scary. And this is a bit like, I think we are with the matrix. I know this is true for myself even. It's like, even when you start to get the knowledge and realize that it's all a setup and that it's that, you're still like, oh, but I can't see what's beyond the matrix. So it's frightening. So the matrix, as ugly as what it is, as negative as what it is, it's our home and it's all we know. And so we are frightened, most of us, to actually want to even see beyond the matrix. Even Neo in that movie, when he found out what the matrix was after he was seeking to find out what it was, he was like, let me out of here. I don't want to know this now. It was too much for him because, you know, he could not stand realizing how his reality really was, that he was really trapped in this prison bubble thing that that basically, you know, dictates his every move and knows his every move. And I've went on too long about the matrix, haven't I? Yeah, but the thing is that it is, look, I think some people realize it, but it is all encompassing. And even to say the word matrix, it sounds fancy, as though you know something, but it's basically just where we as humans have gradually over the years and years and years allowed this to be more and more, but we allow it because we're not aware of it. If we could see that big picture of how everything is orchestrated and how we are not meant to really rise up and be at a higher vibrational level. Now, you might say to me, well, look, some people do seem to be happy. Some people do seem to have it all, or this or that. And that is part of the trap too, to make us envious of other people and to think that it is possible to rise up. It is not possible to rise up just because you have success and you make money. Now, the only real way, you could do that too if you were really, I don't know if you were really lucky or really clever. I don't know how to describe that, but you could. But I think it would be only if you were allowed to, and only if they missed, only if the matrix missed the reality that your vibration was rising, because high vibration does not belong in this matrix. The idea is to keep the vibration low. They understand that everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. We don't. I don't. I know it to be true, but I don't have control over it. we should have, but if if you're not living in a world where you have any control over the external forces around you, then it's going to be very hard for you to have control over your vibration. Because, you know, if someone comes and punches you in the face, it's going to be very hard for you to smile and raise your vibration up to a higher level to where then everyone else is feeling good. And you know what I'm saying? That's common sense, as they say. And this is how the matrix works. So it's, yeah, not always possible to do. It's very unlikely that the matrix allows um, high vibrational people who are going to make the whole matrix high vibrational actually operate. But to envy others that appear to have it all, that makes you in low vibration, because you think it's possible to be happy. You see, in the matrix, you see other people and you say they've got this, they've got that, they seem to be happy, they seem to be having a good time. This is probably not always the case, I would think. But that would also depend on, you know, if you are a servant to the God, then you might be allowed temporary happiness. I'm not 100% sure. I can't speak on the followers or what they get out of it, or what they have to do to get that, or to be allowed to be happy in the matrix. But I'm guessing that they wouldn't be allowed to be sending high vibration to a large number of people, because that's not how this matrix works. This matrix disintegrates once the vibration becomes too high. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it doesn't happen, obviously. It may or may not happen like that, to where it just melts, shall we say. But it doesn't matter whether it happens at a physical level or whether it operates at some other level, you know, like, because obviously if everything is frequency and vibration, you're talking about something you can't see anyway, because we don't see these frequencies. So we don't know when the negative frequencies are hitting us. We don't realise when we're watching something even that it's creating a negative frequency in us, and then we give out the negative frequency back to others. And some people are very strong antennas for this too, that if your lines are a bit clearer. But either way, this whole thing now is very much so controlled by technology that that, you know, we're not operating naturally to where we can control this at all. And like I say, the God now, the one-eyed God, is master, ruler, God of everything, because we live in the land of the blind. And, you know, and some of us might, like myself, open one eye just a little bit and start to get a glimpse of things. But this is only because the matrix closes you down if your frequency starts to rise a bit. This was my own personal observation. That's how I come to the conclusion to all these things. I had to piece it together, because otherwise it didn't make any sense to me, because, you know, it's not like I was aware of any of this at all, nothing at all. But anyway, I'll just read out some of the movies that I think that if anyone's interested to look at, that's if you can tolerate them. Most of the movies that I'm going to mention, I personally can't tolerate most of them. I haven't even seen all of them, but I've seen some of them, and none of them are positive movies, only if you take them as a truth and an educational type thing, almost, you could say. In other words, to say, hey, this is the reality. This is showing us what the world is, how it operates, how the Matrix sees us and treats us. I'll use I'll just read them out. I wrote them down here. I think I was missing one because I added a few because it just come to me. But you could look at so many movies. Like I said, I mentioned that Thor movie. I have not seen it. I know it's a new movie. I have not seen most new movies. I mainly watch old movies. And I saw that the fella in it had the one patch on his eye. And I thought, well, okay, there's all this symbolism and whatever. And the god probably has one eye, but I have not seen the movie. So, but yes, maybe if you see the movie, you can probably pick up many more things. That's if you watch it saying this is a reality that I cannot see. This is a reality behind the scenes. This is probably what has happened with the god. And there again, as I've said before, there are probably more than one God, but we choose one because you can only have one God usually ruling at one time. I don't know. It is possible that they would, and as I said before, if you are warrior gods, you will fight for supremacy. So, whoever wins the battles, which we don't see, we are fighting our own battles here on earth amongst one another. We feed the gods, we fight the battles amongst ourselves when we fight one another, as we're doing all the time. And that is, even at a personal level, I know myself that I could go a lot longer if I did not fight personal battles. But they fight bigger battles. They fight physical battles, mental and physical battles. We fight physical too, but we also, the ones that we think where we've got a reasonable lifestyle, we're mainly fighting mental battles, personal battles. But they are just as negative and keep the frequency of this world and the whole matrix down low. And how we behave in the matrix make sure that the matrix keeps going by our behaviour one way or the other. And our lack of awareness of the matrix, that is the main problem, because if you're aware of it, then you will make your decisions differently, and you'll probably, but even then it will be hard because the matrix will know this, and the matrix sets up things. Even being aware, you still have to play in the matrix, and you might not want to fight. You might not want to argue with someone. You might not want to fight a battle, but it may be thrown at you. And this is the difficulty. This is the game of the matrix, the mind games of it. That it's mainly a mind game, as I've said before, because even to fight physically, you have to mentally think a certain way, as you know. You don't just automatically do anything. It all starts in the mind. At any rate, okay, we have the matrix. There again, there's 3 matrices. I'm going to look at it today if I get a chance. There's 3 things. There's 3 sequels. There's the first Matrix. The first Matrix movie, I think they said that tells you what the Matrix is. That's what the main character is looking for. He wants to know, what is the Matrix? What does it entail? How does it operate? The second movie tends to, I think, go more into what your position is in the matrix, like how the matrix controls you, that type of thing, that sort of thing. And then the final one, of course, is how to get out of the matrix, which is the main thing. But then again, you'd have to probably understand how you are controlled in it and what it actually is before you have a chance to get out. But getting out is still the aim, because you don't want to be a prisoner that wants to stay in the jail. You don't want to say, well, look, I'm used to it, I'm familiar with it, I don't know what's outside of it, I have no skills for that because I've been kept in the dark. You still, the aim is still how to get out of it, but some will not want to. So that's a choice there again. But I always say, an informed choice. Most of us are not having an informed choice. Like, you want to know what it really is, where it's headed, what its whole thing is, in order to make that informed choice. And this is the difficulty, is finding out what it really is all about. Even I, still missing some bits. You know, you learn something all the time. And it does become very, it just becomes very wearing in the sense that it is all encompassing. That's probably the thing. It's not just one thing, it's everything. There's no room to move at all, really. There's no, not at all. And that's what a lot of people, that's why most people can't buy it or believe it, shall we say, because it's too much. If it was just a few things, people can see there's a few problems. They can see a few control systems. They can see a bit of this or that. But they don't realise that they are total pawns in this world. We are total pawns. We are manipulated and controlled at every single level. And the future, if we don't make different choices, or at least make an informed choice, as I say, you're talking about much more of, of this, because you know, we will not have any choice over the physical at all. Now, I'm not talking, or the mental. You know, once you allow a system to take you over completely, particularly at a technological level, mainly technology is the big, the final closure for human beings, I feel, because that is not the way out, that is the way further in, because technology confines, technology restricts, particularly for a human, because it is not part of our makeup. You know, it is it's limited for human beings, very limited for human beings. Now, as I've said before, don't think that because you can go outside of the earth even, that means you're not confined. This matrix goes beyond the earth. It's all a setup. It's all part of the matrix. We just haven't got that far. We will only do that when the matrix decides it is useful for the matrix, you see. So this is how it works. We do not decide anything. No human on this planet decides how the matrix goes. That is, it just does not happen. It is all decided by the other beings, the God entity and his minions. The gods fight. We there again, the Matrix. They live, that movie. They live. The aliens live. We sleep. That's what it says in the movie. We live. They sleep. They is us. We sleep. They live. You know, we should be living too, but we're not. We're asleep. We merely are their conveniences, the gods' conveniences. You know, that's how this matrix works. That's the matrix, and that's they live. Then we have Blade Runner, where you have the different types of humans. Because the matrix has advanced so much that they can make different beings, and the different beings don't know whether they're human or not. They assume they're human, I suppose, at least in the movie. And so, you know, they could be, they, like we do in our reality, we defeat our fellow human beings. We kill our fellow human beings. Humans kill humans. Replicants kill replicants, but replicants, humans think they kill replicants. It's in the movie, this is, okay? But basically, most of it is, yes, part of the matrix, so they're maneuvered to kill what they're programmed to kill, shall we say. And, you know, you might think you're killing some other being, but you're probably killing your own kind. This is the game of the Matrix in the Blade Runner movie. The Body Snatcher movie, that's an old movie, but they've had a few versions, I believe. That's where other beings take over the human form. Like I could be sitting here now and I could be the body snatcher could be inside of me, and I appear to be the same, but I'm basically not myself anymore. My body has been taken over. That's the body snatcher. And in that particular movie, as I've said before, the husband finds out that his wife has been taken over because he's aware that this has happened to people and is happening, because most humans did not even realise that beings had come and were taking over their bodies. And, you know, he destroys his wife because he realises that it's not his wife anymore, that it's even like looks like his wife, that it's another being, and that he can't get her back. And he figures that's a fate worse than death because he kills her, and even that surprised me in the movie. But that's the thing, like, if you are taken over by another being or by technology, you cease to exist. So are you better off alive or better off dead? He decided that it was better, that his wife that he loved was better off dead. You know, that was an interesting point anyway. Then you have I just saw this movie a week or two ago. It's a B movie and I didn't intend to watch it, but the title struck me, so I watched it, Android Rising. And I thought, I'll just see what this is about. Now, that's another, that was a movie that I saw, you know, essentially you had like an android being that looked human, and it was an assassin being, because androids can be programmed to do, evidently, whatever the god or humans that control the robots or the androids or whatever they can control them and tell them what to do. And something went wrong with the programming to where the android became aware of this, because essentially, I suppose an android would not question. And so, and it realised that it was killing, it just became almost conscious or aware for a bit that it was killing, and it didn't know why it was killing because it was programmed to kill, so it didn't ask questions. And this is like we are. We're often programmed and we don't ask questions. And in our world, if we do ask questions, we're only going to get the program answers back anyway. So then we're going to say, oh, well, then it's okay because the program tells us that it's the good thing to do, because we don't think for ourselves anymore, you know. And this is the way it is. But anyway, the android then became aware that it was an android and that it was programmed to kill people that it didn't know, humans, and that it had been taught to dislike humans. But now it was like, why am I killing the humans? Its program got messed up, and then it basically come to the conclusion, I didn't choose to be an android. I didn't choose to be born, you could say. I didn't choose a human created, or a human scientist or whatever, no doubt in conjunction with the god, created the android. But the android was never asked whether it wanted to come into existence and become an assassin of humans that it didn't even know and whatever. And so it actually decided that, yeah, it was like, I don't want to be an android. I did not ask to come. You created me without my permission. I'm not a true living being, and you program me. This is not an existence that I want. So the android decided that it wanted to be extinct almost, you could say, wanted to die because it was quite willing. In fact, in the end of the movie, it allowed itself to be destroyed in order to help some humans, which previously it was assassinating because it was a android assassin that was programmed to kill. That's basic. It was a female. It looked very nice, etc. But anyway, and the last line of the movie was something like, well, it lived like an android, but it died like a human, and so it had a little bit of life just in its last moments because it did start to think and question what it was doing and what its existence was, which is a human quality, not a robot or a programmed or an artificial intelligent quality. They merely assimilate information and grow on that, and whatever is programmed or, I mean, there's still a survival instinct going on. This android lost the survival instinct when it became aware of that. But anyway, I'm going on too much and I'm not very good at this, to be honest. See the movie for yourself. I'm sure you'll get more out of it than me. See these movies yourself. The Matrix, They Live, Blade Runner, The Body Snatchers, Android Rising, Prometheus. I have not seen this movie, but I come to the conclusion that that was about the gods becoming extinct and needing humans to extend their life for their survival, which is why they will fight to the death for that, because it's not just about controlling or keeping the matrix going, it is about their very survival. So humans are in a very precarious position if these things are the case. That was my conclusion, just on, even though I haven't seen the whole thing, because they had advanced so much technologically that they could no longer reproduce naturally. And so they needed technology, and they, probably cloned and all this sort of stuff, which I don't understand naturally. In fact, I don't even want to understand it, but I'm forced to because of the reality. All these things are an offence to a human being in a way, and they should be, but they aren't, because we are being pulled into a technological world. I'm not a religious person. I don't go on saying these things are abominations or whatever, even though I've heard this term in religious text. But once you start manipulating and playing around with genetics to such an extent that you are a genius, but you're a mad scientist and you don't care what you're creating, and you're creating what we would have called monstrosities in the past, and we think this is fine because it's all in the name of science or in development or technology. It's away from everything. It's taking us all down a death trap, and it is a death trap, literally. Okay, death trap. I think a movie that I have not seen fully, but I've seen a few scenes, but it's too strong for me, Cloud Atlas. Death trap in some of those scenes. Yes. Many aspects in that. But if you can take some of these movies, Clockwork Orange, mind control. Well, that's what it's all about. Technology for mind control and psychological mind control. Any mind control. Human beings are totally under mind control. We all are. Every day it cannot be avoided. The mind parasites, as I've said, the Archon mind parasites, that's a term that some people use. They infiltrate our mind. They control our actions, and they keep us playing in the matrix. Clockwork Orange. I saw that film once when it came out. I did not choose to. I was dragged to it. Didn't understand it then, hated it, thought it was violent and repulsive. That was just, I'm sure a lot of people did. I shouldn't perhaps be too graphic because I know we have a lot worse now. But I didn't understand it. And I thought, why have they made these films? See, I don't understand why they made A Clockwork Orange. I don't understand why they made Silence of the Lambs, for instance. That's another example, another movie. I wondered why they made them. I didn't fully comprehend them, but I wondered why did they make them? Well, now of course I know, because I say, hey, they show you the truth in all the movies. So that's why they make them, to show you the truth and to condition you and to make you think a certain way, or just to show you the truth. And if it's too far-fetched or something, because they have to show us the truth. This is a conclusion I've come to, because otherwise there's no reason for them to make all these movies and to show stuff that doesn't really, it's not happening now, and it actually doesn't keep the matrix going particularly well, because if you expose the matrix, that's not really conducive to keep it going, because the whole idea is for humans not to see the matrix. And if you see the matrix, then I mean, if everyone saw the matrix would probably then there would be an honest choice, and probably a lot of people would not want to be a part of it, I wouldn't think. And also they would have the ability to change it or to leave it or etc. or whatever. There would be choices, and there would be abilities then as a combined force to do this too, whereas as single entities like we are, it's pretty much useless, because the matrix is a huge thing, and it is you know, so individuals have very little impact on the matrix. It has to be where, as a joint collective, people see it and either choose not to be part of it, or choose certain things about. Look, you know what I'm saying. It's like it would be a choice, then an open choice. But while you're playing in the matrix and you only see the tunnel vision parts of it, like I only see what I see outside my door, then I'm really playing in the matrix, and I'm forced to every second. In fact, even seeing the bigger picture, I'm still forced to do that. So it shows you how difficult it is. But if other people saw it too, then there wouldn't be other people around me that would be playing in it as much. So they might say, hey, we won't go and pick a fight with someone today. Now, knowing that we are programmed to do this, we might decide to do nothing. And therefore that the matrix has a chance then for the frequency to rise, if you follow me. Okay. Eyes Wide Shut, of course, even though I have not seen that whole movie either. But it does show the different, I think it shows personal stuff, but it also, I think, shows aspects of certain religions that govern the world and how they operate, perhaps. And I think that was the thing. And another movie, They Shoot Horses, don't they? The title tells it all, doesn't it? It's a graphic movie. I have seen this years ago. It's an older movie. They shoot horses, don't they? The idea being that, like the fella that shot his wife because she was taken over by another being that was aggressive and out to hurt human beings, whereas his wife was a loving person that that was totally different, and he decided to shoot his wife because he knew it wasn't his wife anymore, and that as much as he still looked like his wife, if he let her go, she would probably destroy him and everyone else given a chance. Now, They Shoot Horses, don't they, is like that in the sense that, like the title says, if someone or something is in great pain, perhaps it is kinder to shoot them or get rid of them. And in that movie, the people that were in that were like we all are in this matrix, I think, striving to get ahead of it, striving to make a better life, striving to find something good in the matrix, a good life. But in They Shoot Horses, don't they, And this is what this movie was showing, was that they were chasing a dream, but they never had any hope of finding that dream. It was a setup. The competition and the thing that was in that movie was a total setup. It was not designed to make for happiness, for people to win and to make a happy life. It was designed to feed off negative energy, low frequency. And that's why at the end of it, the girl was asked her friend to shoot her because she realized this. She realized it was futile. She thought that she had a chance to get out of the matrix. She thought she had a chance to make a better life in the matrix. But it was all a delusion, a dream, because it was a setup, as the matrix says. And so she asked her boyfriend or her friend to shoot her because, you know, she saw there was no hope, and there wasn't. And that's essentially what that movie's shown, I think, really. And there again, watch it if you can. If you can stand these movies, they're not pleasant movies. They're negative movies. I would say that every movie that I've mentioned here has a negative connotation. Okay, you might say, well, The Matrix, it ended, well, they make out that The Matrix can be exposed and changed in the Matrix movie, so maybe that's not, but it isn't happening in the real world. So, but it is showing that it could happen, but that's only if, yes, the Matrix, if everyone is unplugged from the Matrix, if everyone sees the Matrix, that's the whole purpose of those movies, isn't it really? But everyone is plugged in, and even when you see it, you'll be unplugged all right, but the Matrix knows that you can see it, so you won't be allowed to be too happy in the Matrix because, you know, like I say, if frequency rises, the Matrix automatically unplugs, I think, you see. If everyone's frequency rises, everyone automatically gets unplugged. The same way in the They Live movie, where when the towers were pulled down, when the source of the technical control system was blown out by the main fella, then all of a sudden everyone could see the reality of the Matrix. They could see the negative beings that were around them. They could see the mind manipulation. They could see the fakeness of the world that they were in. It became clear because the technology was deceiving them and keeping them in the Matrix. Literally, that's a very similar thing to the They Live movie. But at any rate, I've rambled on and no doubt made no sense as usual, but I think I do this just to get it off my chest because I always think, you know, you never know if you're going to be here tomorrow, and but I would recommend for anyone that's listening to watch all those movies and many, many more, and just bear in mind that every time you watch a movie, I'll mention those movies again because I wrote them down, but there's many more I could mention, but I have not seen every movie. I don't watch newer movies much. The Matrix, the basis of what our reality is. They Live, another basis of what our reality really is. Blade Runner, a reality of what things are to a large extent. Body Snatchers, same thing. Android Rising, very similar to Blade Runner and Body Snatchers in the sense that you're talking about non-human type beings. Prometheus, the future of where the Matrix wants to take mankind, to use humans to save the God beings or at least their followers or their minions from extinction because they have technologically technologically stop themselves from being able to procreate and to keep their race going. I'm trying to find the words. I'm sorry if I'm ignorant. I wish I could put it better, but I don't. So they need humans for that future. But that means that that will be at our expense, though, because then we will be tied to them even more and pushed further into the matrix. I would think that would be how it would have to work, because it won't be like they're not going to give humans equal status with the gods. That's been the whole thing all along. The gods do not want humans to have equal status with them. No, because they are the gods, and they, you know, they like being gods. They're not like gods that plonked us here and then go away and leave us to evolve naturally. That was how I believe we originally started. You know, before intervention, before the gods came. You know, I believe that we were here on our own, humans that is, and we were meant to evolve naturally, as I said, with all living things. And we are part of nature. They are living things connected to us. We enhance them, they enhance us. And they, my personal belief is that all the abilities that all the animals have, all the separate wonderful abilities, like if you take any individual animal, you usually find that they have one fantastic thing, like a bird can fly. We can't fly. Some animals can jump vast distances. Some animals can see better. Other animals can smell things. They can look at all the different animals. They all have different abilities. Humans are meant to have all those abilities and more. And they're in sync with the animals and in the life force of everything that is. Every living thing that is on this world. And instead, of course, the matrix is designed to be technical, the opposite. It devastates the natural thing, which is our thing to help us wake up and to see the matrix, I believe. This is why we have gone technologically. So we've gone away from nature. Nature wakes us up. Nature brings us back into our own to where we can evolve and be the best and have all the abilities that the animals have, and many more. But instead we go for technology. That is the matrix. The matrix is ruled by technology, and the beings that rule the matrix, they are technological beings. They like technology. That is their development. They are advanced at that huge level. But as you can see, as I've said before with these movies, Prometheus, they've technologicalized themselves to such an extent that they can't breed anymore, that they're going extinct. You know, even though they do live for massive amounts of time, but eventually even that, they're not immortal. Spiritual beings are immortal. They never die, but they can become trapped. And if you become trapped, and you allow yourself to be taken over, and your spirit is squashed, and all your abilities are squashed, and you're a totally nothing in a matrix where you're just maneuvered around like a pawn, then you're as good as dead. And that is, you know, but the beings, they can then extend their lot. So it's a trade-off that we're making, but we don't know we're making it, I don't think. But the movies are showing us this. Clockwork Orange, all about that, the mind control. You control humans by their mind. We have been controlled and limited by our mind from the beginning, because if we don't know what we are, we don't know what we're capable of, we don't know what the real world is, we don't even know we are in a matrix, of course, we are, you know, naturally at a total disadvantage and at a total loss. And, you know, we're the one-eyed God is king, while in the land of the blind, and we are the blind. We have been made blind. Eyes Wide Shut, same thing. The title speaks for itself. Humans, eyes wide shut. And they like that. And we are. And it's essential. And if you don't, because the Matrix now has full control, if you don't keep your eyes wide shut, then it's not going to be such a pleasant time anyway. So then you will only contribute to negativity anyway because your frequency will be low. But that's all part of the game. They shoot horses, don't they? Yes, if it gets really bad and you realise the Matrix and stuff, is it not more humane to leave it? But we have been conditioned to keep fighting and to keep surviving, fighting a battle that can't be won, because we're used to surviving. We're used to survival mode. We're conditioned for survival mode. We think that's living. We never get to the point where we say, hey, is this really living? If there's really no hope, and if we are in a matrix and we are not aware of it and we're not trying to maneuver it a little bit, and we don't even know who our God is, and that's what that movie is. Cloud Atlas, another negative one, negative, even though I haven't seen it, but negative aspects of it. Just see it anyway because it shows to some extent in the scenes that I've seen how this world operates too. Also how things go, how some people control a lot, and how we are manipulated into thinking all sorts of things, and that sometimes even when we think we are headed towards a better future, we're actually headed towards our demise, the opposite. So we do have to be very careful to observe as much as we can and to be aware. Silence of the Lambs, the movie that I added, that movie is just so that just shows, I think, how some people in the world actually think and operate. And it glamorizes, I think, personally, when I think of it, because that movie got a lot of awards and a lot of good acting. I say there is no good acting in Silence of the Lambs. I say there's anything good about the movie. I found it a negative movie. I found the acting poor, and I found the characters very misleading. All the characters in it, I would say, have nothing but a negative influence on reality, and essentially showing human beings that they're not human, or that they can, and that it's okay to not be human. By that I mean to do things that humans should not really do and would not do if they were in their natural state. A kind of acceptance of that, making villains heroes, that type of thing. But that was just my view of it when I saw it, and that was years ago. And I thought, what? Also, I didn't understand it fully, all the aspects of it, because it was a very dark, very depraved type of film, you'd have to say, very depraved to say the least. But there are a lot of people on this world that are depraved and that do buy into all that negative type of ritualistic type of behaviour. And I don't know why they do this or where they've got it from, but I would say that movies like that condition people to think that it's okay, and that was what I essentially wondered with quite a few of the movies that I mentioned. When I did see them at the time, I did say to myself, why did they make this movie? What is the point of this movie? Why are they showing this? Like, does it make people feel good? Is it a benefit to humans? And I thought it can't possibly be. And yet these are Academy Award very popular movies. So I'm guessing that, like I've said before, they show the truth, but they also have influence with movies and music and all this sort of stuff. So it's a double thing that that I think while you're watching them, I know at the time I did not fully comprehend that to right now, but very, very negative, very misleading, very anti-human, I would say. But as I've said before, these movies show the truth. So these things are part of the matrix and part of the reality. But I would say that in showing them in movies, that has an influence, and that is because if these things already go on and some people are indulging, that is something that you might not be able to stop. But if other people see it in a movie and it hadn't occurred to them before, this is not, this to me is like, that's not what people watch a movie for. It should make people feel better. None of these movies make people feel better or raise the vibration. All they do is make them think about things that they hadn't thought about before. It tricks their mind into thinking of negative things that they wouldn't have naturally thought of even. But what I will say is, as I've said before, all these movies show truth. So as unpleasant as some of them are to actually view, if you are looking for the truth, yes, unfortunately, the truth is in all these movies. They are the reality. They might not be under your nose, but they are in your reality. And at some point, you will become aware of this, and at some point, you might even see it. Because as the Matrix, if the Matrix also is exposing itself more now too. But instead of making people go against the Matrix because it's exposing, it is conditioning people to accept the Matrix, from what I can see, because people are not offended by what they would have been offended by a few years back. So that tells me that they are moving with the Matrix. They're not opposing the Matrix. They're not trying to get the Matrix back into balance. They're going with the negative. They're the positive here, negative here. They're going right to the extreme negative, and that's the Matrix, pulling them that way, whereas they should be trying to move it to the centre at least. It's probably a pipe dream to expect it to go to the positive completely, but the fact that we look at these movies and things now and say, oh, we don't come out and say, oh, maybe some people do, but we don't actually, we seem to be accepting a lot of this as normal, I would say, and it is normal for some people. This is the bottom line truth. It has to be, because otherwise it wouldn't be shown in the movies. But if just because I'm not seeing it right in front of me, every single thing of this, I'm seeing some of it, but I might not be seeing it as graphic. Well, I might be seeing some things graphically, but not every single thing that's in those movies. That does not mean that it's not happening, and that it doesn't mean that one day we might not see it all graphic, but that will only be when you can't get rid of it or you can't change it. It's important to make the choices to see the truth now, and then to say, do we want to accept this? In other words, instead of with eyes wide shut, we need to have eyes wide open and then make the choice, and say, and realise that it is all a seduction too. That you can glamorize things that are not glamorous in a movie and even in reality if you get conditioned enough to it. And this is what the Matrix does, I think, because, a lot of things that were not acceptable even in the past are now acceptable, and we think that is advancement. We think that what was ugly is now glamorous, you could say. We glamorize all these things in the movies. We don't say, hey, whoa, this is not, maybe not such a good idea, or maybe, we don't. We don't have that. Whereas in the past, even, we might have said, well, look, that's an interesting movie and it's glamorous in a movie, but I wouldn't want it in my reality. Whereas we're saying, hey, yeah, that's glamorous in a movie. All this technology is glamorous in a movie. Yes, it would be good in my reality. I don't think so. That's just my view. I would have to say, no, it would not be glamorous in your reality. It's a movie is not the same as in your reality, but also it takes from your power, because that is not where you. To me, it's all about the truth that we are becoming less instead of more by all this. That's how I would see it, but that's just because that's how I look at it. But also, all these things, in the end, they become so confusing. See, even with all these movies, if you watch them, you'll probably say, hey, I can't buy any of that. I don't want any of that. Like Neo in the Matrix, get me out of here. Because the truth, because we've let things go so far in this reality, and we're so separated from the truth, when we see the truth, it's too much, because all these movies, it's too much. It's not just one thing. It's not like saying, oh, yeah, we live in a matrix and maybe we're a little bit mind controlled. Maybe we're a little bit too consumer. Maybe we're a little bit that. No. See, this is the trouble. And we sort of say, well, we can accept that. Maybe we could get our mind around that. Maybe we could say no to some of these things. But in reality, it's gone so much further than that. It is, yes, a Clockwork Orange, where you're talking about total mind control. It's not just it's eyes wide shut, where you're told to ignore these things, and that some things are acceptable because maybe it's a better thing down the track, or this or that. I'm sure different people are told different reasons why everything is okay and why it is good for us to keep going down this negative path. But if you look at all these movies and you use a little bit of your own thinking, you might say, well, look, gee, it's too much to believe. But, like, we are now in the thick of it. We've let it go too far, and we're still letting it go too far. I say, if you have doubts about something, it should be stopped. You should take a breather, back off, get away from all that. Of course, I can't do it. If I could do it, I could rejuvenate myself for a bit. But this is what I'm saying. This is what really is essential. We need to go back and take a different path, because we're on the wrong path. That's if you take notice of all these movies. And the movies, I believe, are showing us that. It's not like the movies actually even, they glamorize certain things, sure, but they're still showing you the truth. So it's up to you whether you want to say, oh, well, that's just a movie, and oh, yes, that was naughty, but it's very glamorous, so it's okay. Or, oh, yeah, maybe we have a little bit of mind control, but it's not like we're still not free. So, and yeah, we have systems in place in our world, so we're in a little bit of a matrix, but no, it's not an all-encompassing matrix that we have no control over, and that is even controlled by a God that we have never actually even seen, most of us. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed God is king. And, he's quite prepared to lose an eye if he can win the battle. The prize is great. And what is the prize? On this earth, every living thing is the prize. That is the victory. You'd say, why? Well, gods need humans. They're not self-sufficient. You probably say, well, a god shouldn't need anything because a god creates. Well, no, not all gods are like that. These gods do not. They need humans. There's an exchange. but it's an exchange that most humans are not even aware of, though. They don't know that they're exchanging negative energy and low frequency to keep the God's matrix going and to feed the God entity. This is not something that we're all aware of. It goes on a daily basis. The God has no problem with that. It's his survival or ours. The prize is every living thing. The prize is there is there's great acclaim to the God that can say that it defeated potentially the most advanced beings that could have been in the universe, humans. To say we are technological beings, that we defeated and destroyed the greatest spiritual beings that could have surpassed all, and we controlled, dominated, and had victory over them and reduced them to technological useless nothings. Therefore, we are the gods. We may be the one-eyed God, but we are the gods of all if we can accomplish that.